In hours from now, the election fest kicks off. "102 seats up for grabs across 14 states. The Tamil Nadu battle is the biggest talking point.
All the three constituencies, BJP will get a record victory.
Ground reports, data analysis and more. Are you ready for the Friday blockbuster? The State Award 2024 is our top focus on 6 p.m. Prime.
Good evening. You're watching India Today. I'm Akshita Nantagopal, and this evening we're 13 hours away from polling and the first phase of elections, and thereby the election festival kicking off. I'm going to be getting you, in fact, a lowdown of all that you need to know about phase one of polling. Analysis, data and reporters will be joining you over the next 1 hour. That will be what we get you as part of the Indian Political League. What's happening in the Indian Premier League? Nikhil Naz also joining us live. Nikhil, good evening. I'm back in the studio, but the Indian Political League is now just about heating up. What can we expect from the original IPL, the Indian Premier League?
I'll tell you what, Akshita, we're on the eve of polling and we thought we'll put a bit of a political tadka in our Indian Premier League segment today because, as you know, two very well-known cricketers would be contesting these Lok Sabha polls. One is, of course, a veteran in Kirti Azhar. The other one making his debut is Yusuf Pathan. But we're going to look back over history. Cricketers that stepped into the political dangle. That's going to be our focus, and that's coming your way at 6:40 p.m.
Well, that's a long, long list. We look forward to hearing from you on that, Nikhil. Thanks very much. 6:40, Nikhil Naz getting you those updates. All right, let's break down for you the Indian Political League. Let's begin with the headlines. Ram Navami Bengal war continues. Mamata Banerjee blames BJP for clashes, calls the violence pre-planned. Congress MP Adhir Ranjan meets victims. BJP claims Mamata playing divide and rule. Congress versus left mudslinging in Kerala. Kerala Chief Minister targets Rahul Gandhi, says CPM doesn't need a certificate from Congress to speak out against BJP. Claims Congress gave BJP a walkover in Arunachal Pradesh. Battle for Karnataka intensifies. Former Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy speaks exclusively to India Today, calls alliance with Congress a mistake, says there's no future for the Siddaramaiah government.
People's decision is different now. They wanted the alliance in Karnataka. Voters are wanted alliance with BJP.
Big war over Chhattisgarh Naxal encounter. Congress Neta calls Naxals martyrs in a video and kicks up a storm. BJP hits out, says Congress is mocking democracy.
मुझे लगता है इसकी बिल्कुल गहन जांच होनी चाहिए और उन सब लोग जो शहीद हुए, हमारे सुरक्षाकर्मी भी कुछ घायल हुए, उन सबको हमारी संवेदनाएं हैं और इसमें कोई राजनीति का सवाल नहीं.
Nestle comes under the government radar. Study claims added sugar in Nestle's Cerelac. Sources say Indian food regulator takes sumo to Cognizance. Nestle India shares slip by 5%. An ED hit on actor Shilpa Shetty and husband Raj Kundra in a 7,000 crore Bitcoin Ponzi scam. ED attaches actor and her husband's properties worth 98 crores. And we're hours away from the Lok Sabha battle officially kicking off. Tomorrow is when the first vote will be cast in this election battle, the first phase of the Lok Sabha elections. You're going to be seeing the entire state of Tamil Nadu voting, the entire state of Uttarakhand. Besides that, some seats of Uttar Pradesh, of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Bengal, Maharashtra, parts of the northeast, all voting in this particular phase. In all, 102 seats that go to polls come tomorrow. April 19th, the fate of several candidates will be sealed, and thereby the Festival of Democracy officially kicks off in just about 12 hours from now. Now let's begin by focusing on each state that goes to polls tomorrow. Like I mentioned, there are two states in particular, Tamil Nadu and Uttarakhand, which has single phase of polling. Tomorrow they're going to be done and dusted with voting. So let's talk about Tamil Nadu first. At first, let's begin by showing you all of the parts that go into polls tomorrow, that will be voting tomorrow. Let's take a look at Tamil Nadu first. Now, why I want to also talk about the 39 seats in Tamil Nadu is because yesterday, if you watched our broadcast, we did get you details of some of the key seats to watch out for. Now, let's look at more details, really, and we'll be getting our reporters also to join us live to talk about what really each candidate has done, which are the seats to watch out for. But just to take a look at really what the seat share has looked like previously, you can see that out of the 39 seats, 38 went to the DMK Congress combined. There was just one seat that the NDA managed to pick up, the AIA-DMK plus then. We've broken that down because now, of course, the scenario is very, very different. But let me show you, in fact, what the vote share was like, because this is what everyone is talking about whether the BJP can actually improve their vote share. The NDA last time around got 10%, the AIA-DMK at 22%. We've again broken that down because now the alliances look very, very different. But let's break that down further as well to talk about what the BJP's alliance was. The BJP's vote share essentially was at 3.6%. They're talking about double digits this time. So imagine that in a circumstance where you had the Congress and the DMK at 33.5%, the Congress at 12.6%, the AIA-DMK at 19.4%, the BJP had just about 3.6%, and they're counting on now reaching double digits. It's not going to be easy, but the BJP also, remember, has support. They have support of the PMK. They have the support of several other parties as well who all joined hands with them to create this mega alliance. But will that actually make a difference is the question. Historically also, if you look at really what the vote share has been like, look at this percentage right here. We've broken it down from 2004 all the way to 2024. Now, obviously, the DMK and the AIA-DMK, the two strongest parties really in Tamil Nadu, you can see how their numbers have always been double digits, has always been at least 20% and above. For the NDA, it's been an uphill task and kind of like an oscillating map. As you can see, the highest in these last few years that you can see here is 12%. And the BJP will be looking to beat that. As an NDA combined, they've been talking about 20% plus. If that happens, and that too without the support of an AIA-DMK, without a DMK also, obviously, because they've allied only once together, it'll be interesting to see whether the BJP can actually pull that off. Let me bring in our reporters on this broadcast. We've got Shilpa Nair and Pramod Madhav joining us live from Chennai. We've also got Shibi Mol, who's joining us live from Karur. We'll get to Shibi in just a bit when we'll explain to you why exactly she's in Karur. But I want to begin now with Shilpa Nair, who is joining us live from Chennai. Shilpa, all the bigwigs, the political bigwigs, of course, are going to be casting their vote in the city of Chennai. But in Chennai itself, Chennai Central, Chennai South, there's so much talk about.
Well, that's right, Akshita. Like you rightly pointed out, the Festival of Democracy kicks off tomorrow at 7 a.m. and all the bigwigs, all the big political names and celebrities, of course, all of them really voting in Chennai. And as far as Chennai, Fight for Chennai is concerned, there are three constituencies that come under Chennai. That is Chennai South, Chennai Central and Chennai North. And these are traditionally considered to be the DMK bastion or the DMK fort. But this time around in Chennai South especially, we are seeing a very interesting three-cornered fight. Dr. Tamilisai Soundararajan has been fielded by by the BJP. She was, of course, the governor of Telangana and LG of Puducherry before, so she resigned from her post and she's come back to electoral politics, and she's been fielded from South Chennai, and she will be taking on DMK's Tamarachi Thangapandian, who's a sitting MP from South Chennai, and the ADMK has fielded Jayawardhan, who's the son of senior leader D. Jayakumar. So very interesting three-corner fight in South Chennai that we're seeing. And remember, South Chennai was also one of the places that was very badly affected during the floods that hit Chennai in last December. Several areas, especially areas like Velachery, was underwater for 3 to 5 days, and there was a lot of anger against the state government, against the central government, also, with respect to the disaster that took place, because the central government is yet to give the flood relief amount. So whether or not that will play out, whether that will have an impact on the election results, that's something that we'll have to wait and watch. But again, now coming to Chennai Central, Dayanidhi Maran of the DMK, again the sitting MP from the constituency, is taking on Vinod P. Selvam, the BJP's young leader in central Chennai, and there again, the fight has been very, very fierce, very sharp political attacks between Dayanidhi Maran and Vinod Selvam.
It's not going to be easy. These are DMK strongholds, and here's why I say that. Shilpa, just stay with me. I just want to take our viewers through really what Chennai Central and what Chennai South looked like in 2019. And for that, I'll just show you the victory margin for the likes of Dayanidhi Maran. Let's talk about Chennai Central here. This is why, if Vinod Selvam manages to actually pull off an upset, he is going to be nothing short of a giant slayer. Look at the margin by which Dayanidhi Maran won. He got 57% of the vote share, a 3 lakh plus margin by which Dayanidhi Maran had managed to defeat the PMK and the Makkal Nidhi Mayam. That's why this is called a DMK stronghold. That's why you've seen even the AIADMK actually shy away from a battle in Chennai Central. You look at Chennai South also, it's a similar circumstance essentially, because in Chennai South, you had Tamarachi Thangapandian, who is the incumbent MP fighting again from the DMK. She actually managed to beat the AIADMK and the MNM by a margin of 2 lakh plus, 2,62,000 votes. That's a huge deal, because someone like a Jayawardhan was the sitting MP then. And there seemed to be a clear, resounding wave for the DMK that managed to translate to these kind of numbers of 50% vote share in South Chennai for Tamarachi Thangapandian. So this time around, she's again in the poll phrase. So is Jayawardhan, but you've got a new candidate to the fray in the form of Tamilisai Soundararajan, who is in fact contesting from Chennai South as well. Similarly, in Chennai North as well, let's take a look at those numbers. Again, look at that right there. Kalanidhi Veeraswamy, who's again fighting from Chennai North, won by a margin of 4 lakh plus votes. And this is why I've referred to Chennai as a DMK Nadu of sorts. In 2019, all 3 seats easily won by the DMK with a margin of 2 lakh plus votes in every single one of these seats. So actually to defeat any of these leaders is going to be hugely, hugely challenging. The BJP says we're up for a challenge. The AIADMK is saying that we're putting our focus particularly on Chennai South. So we'll see how that plays out. I want to bring in Pramod Madhav also on this broadcast. We've taken a deep dive into Chennai right now, Pramod, but there are several other seats also that everyone is talking about, where the AIADMK is focusing on, and also the BJP-led NDA is going to be talking about. I'm referring to seats like Teni, I'm referring to seats like Ramanathapuram, where you have an OPS, a TTV Dinakaran, who've been fielded.
Absolutely, Akshita. We got the data also from the Election Commission today. The actual total voters in the state of Tamil Nadu is 6.23 crores. I'm saying this because of which male voters are 8.6 lakh. That's the 8 crores and 6 lakhs. And the women is 8 crores and 17 lakhs. But the number of candidates, 950, of which 876 were men and only 76 were women carriers. This is the data we got from the ECI today. However, just like you mentioned, in the fight, we also come to know that even though AIADMK and DMK claim that they're going to get all the 40 seats, that's 39 for Tamil Nadu and 1 for Puducherry, there seems to be a kind of battle that's going to happen in 8 constituencies, including Kallakurichi and the Kongu Belt. Of course, Annamalai is going to be in the Kongu Belt as well, where they are concentrating, and they believe that there's going to be a neck-to-neck fight over there. Other than that, TTV Dinakaran has very clearly mentioned that Thangar Chandrasekaran, who was with AIADMK and who was a part of TTV Dinakaran's campaign earlier, is not a kind of a contestant for him. This is how TTV Dinakaran has said. But OPS is an entirely different aspect because we've come to know that AIDMK is putting up a kind of a different fight over there. You knew this because like 6 OPSs are going to fight against this particular OPS alone. So this election is going to be really interesting. And here, already the Chief Minister has mentioned, one side DMK claims 40 seats and on the other side ADMK claims 40 seats, Akshita.
Okay, we can't talk about Tamil Nadu and not focus on Coimbatore. So let's just take a look at the Coimbatore numbers before I bring in Shibi also on this broadcast. If you look at what happened in 2019, you see again here, this is one of those seats that you had the DMK alliance winning by a huge margin, a 1 lakh plus margin. This is a seat that usually the DMK always handed over to the left to the CPIM. This time they said, we're going to fight in Coimbatore. But P.R. Natarajan had won this seat with a victory margin of over 1,79,000 votes, so a vote share of 46,000. Now, interestingly, in second place was actually the BJP, C.P. Radhakrishnan, who's won the elections before from Coimbatore, who's been a member of parliament from Coimbatore previously, right up until 2004, contested again, had managed to get about 31% of votes. This is what the BJP is essentially counting on. They're saying that, look, we have a base to build on in Coimbatore. We've won in Coimbatore before. But you look at the margin here, and this is the CPIM, P.R. Natarajan, who's a veteran essentially from Coimbatore. This time is not contesting, but instead you've got the DMK. So is that something that will work in their favor? Will it resonate again with a 46% vote share for the DMK alliance remains the big question. This time the BJP's fielded Annamalai instead. And does that really help or not the BJP's cause is the big question. But this is a contest that's going to go down to the wire. I've got Shibi Mol joining me live from Karur. Why Karur? Because that's where Annamalai is going to be casting his vote. Remember that in the previous assembly election, he'd actually contested from, in fact, Aravakuruchi, where he'd lost in Karur. That's his home district. He's going to be casting his vote there. Shibi, everyone's talking about whether Annamalai can actually pull off a win in Coimbatore and whether he can actually improve the BJP's performance in Tamil Nadu.
Well, absolutely, Akshita. In fact, there's a lot of attention to Tamil Nadu elections, and Coimbatore has to be one of the main hotspots of Tamil Nadu elections this time. I am in Karur, like you mentioned. Annamalai will be casting his vote tomorrow from here. Before 8 a.m., he'll be casting his vote, and after that, he will be proceeding to his constituency, Coimbatore. In fact, like you mentioned, it's a three-way tight contest here in Coimbatore. All the three parties have a lot of stake, political stake here. Interestingly, when I stopped by in Karur to give this live, behind me, I don't know if it's visible, but there's a temple, and right opposite to the temple is a statue of Annadure, which kind of sums up the politics that's happening in, in Tamil Nadu, right, in Coimbatore specifically. All the three parties, like you mentioned, it was a CPIM seat. It's a stronghold of the CPIM. The DMK stepping in and taking the seat from the CPIM clearly proves that they want to prove a point that Annamalai is not as strong. Their point that Annamalai is not as strong as it is perceived outside the state. The BJP, of course, banking on Annamalai's popularity and the image that he has created, not just in Tamil Nadu, in South as a whole. He's been, being promoted as the face of South India as far as BJP is concerned. They have a lot of hope in Coimbatore as well as in Kanyakumari, and also AIDMK also. It's a strong hold for them also. So there's a lot of political stake for them also, considering that there's a strong influence of the Gaunter caste also. So for all the three parties, all of them have their own priorities, have their own targets set. So it will be an interesting contest. Tomorrow we'll be traveling to Coimbatore right after, Annamalai has cast his vote from Karur.
Okay, and we look forward to your reports. Thanks very much, Shibi, Shilpa and Pramod for joining us. We're, of course, going to be joined by all three and many more of our reporters who are spread across Tamil Nadu tomorrow to get you all those updates starting 7 a.m. tomorrow morning when Tamil Nadu goes out to vote. We'll be live right here on India Today to get you all of those details. The numbers, of course, in 2019 were overwhelmingly in favor of the DMK Congress alliance. Will that be a repeat? That's what the DMK Congress is counting on, that they completely sweep this election once again. The AIADMK as well as the BJP looking to kind of change that, not just to vote share, but also in seats. So we've given you a full 360-degree view of what to expect from Tamil Nadu. Let's talk about the other big headline state. I'm referring to the state of Uttar Pradesh. In Uttar Pradesh, in this particular election, you're going to be seeing 8 seats in this phase which will be voting. And these are extremely crucial 8 seats. Look at the numbers as they were split up in 2019 in these 8 seats. You had 3 that went to the BJP, the NDA, 2 with the India bloc, and 3 with other parties. Now, I want to bring in our reporters also on this broadcast. We've got Maushmi joining us live right now, Samad Srivastava as well. Maushmi is joining us from Pilibhit, and I just want to show you some numbers of Pilibhit. Remember that this time around, the reason Pilibhit is extremely crucial is because it's a seat where you don't have Varun Gandhi contesting. You've instead got Jitin Prasada, and this was a seat that the BJP won by an overwhelming majority in 2019. Look at those figures right there for you. If you look at the victory margin, this is one of the seats in Uttar Pradesh that the BJP managed to win with a victory margin of over 2,55,000. Yes, there was a BJP factor, but there is a huge Varun Gandhi factor also involved in that number right there. The vote share 59% for the BJP for Varun Gandhi. SP came second, and these numbers is what the BJP will be hoping to replicate. Without Varun Gandhi, with Jitin Prasad instead in the fight, will that actually happen? I want to bring in Maushmi Singh on this broadcast. She's joining us live from Pilibhit. This is a very, very interesting contest, Maushmi, that people are going to be watching out for. What happens really in Pilibhit?
Good evening, Akshita. Yes, it's going to be a very interesting contest. All eyes are on Pilibhit. It's been a VVIP seat of sorts. Maneka Gandhi has won 6 times. Varun Gandhi twice from Pilibhit. So it's been a sort of a bastion of the mother and son duo. And this time round, the big jolt came for Varun Gandhi. And just 25 days back, Jitin Prasad's candidature was announced, and there's been a carpet bombing of BJP leaders, including the bigwigs. Prime Minister Narendra Modi started his campaign on the first day of Navratra, right from Pilibhit. Yogi Adityanath has come multiple times here. Even, the opposition bigwigs, Mayawati and Akhilesh Yadav, have camped here, hoping to upset the tables in Pilibhit. But clearly, it depends on what the people of Pilibhit are really looking at the factors. There has been an overwhelming majority of vote in favor of the BJP. We've seen that Varun Gandhi and Maneka Gandhi has bagged more than 50% of the vote share whenever they've won from Pilibhit. So it's a very interesting power play. And Bharat Sharan Gangwar has been pitched by the Samajwadi Party. Phul Babu from the BSP is also contesting here. So for Jitin Prasad, it's been a hat-trick of losses in the past 3 elections, and we'll have to see whether that changes for him this time round.
All right, Maushmi, we'll be tuning into your broadcast. You'll be joining us, of course, at 7 a.m. tomorrow to get us those live updates as well from Pilibhit. We've got Samarth and Abhishek Mishra also live with us. And before I cut across to them, let's take a look at an exclusive conversation that my colleague Samarth had with Akhilesh Yadav, the SP chief, who's expressed confidence before phase 1 of polling that in the 8 seats, these crucial 8 seats in phase 1, the Samajwadi Party and Congress will emerge victor.
अखिलेश जी, कल अहम दिन है पूरे लोकतंत्र के लिए, पहला फेज है, मतदान है, आपका क्या मैसेज है?
जनता इंतजार कर रही थी कि किस दिन उन्हें वोट डालने का मौका मिलेगा। कल से शुरुआत हो रही है वोट पड़ने की, और भारतीय जनता पार्टी की हर बात झूठी थी, इनके झूठे वादे थे। पहले चरण से ही भारतीय जनता पार्टी का सफाया होना शुरू होगा। जहां तक उत्तर प्रदेश का सवाल है, पश्चिम से जो हवा चलेगी इस बार, जो पलटने का संदेश है वो बिल्कुल साफ है। इस बार जनता ने मन बना लिया है कि इनको पहले ही चरण में पलट देंगे। पलटने की शुरुआत हो गई है पहले चरण से। जो पश्चिम की शुरुआत है वो आखिरी गाजीपुर बलिया तक यही हवा चलेगी।
लगातार ग्राउंड में थे, आपने रैलियां भी की हैं, बस यात्रा भी वहां निकाली है। 8 सीटों में आप क्या समीकरण देख पा रहे हैं पार्टी के लिए?
इससे बेहतर समीकरण समाजवादी पार्टी नहीं बना सकती थी। कोशिश करके समाजवादी पार्टी ने एक समीकरण दिया है, जनता को एक रास्ता दिया है भारतीय जनता पार्टी को हराने के लिए। और मैंने कई मौकों पर कहा है कि इस बार पीडीए एनडीए को हरा देगा। एनडीए का पता ही नहीं लगेगा पीडीए के सामने।
सर, अमरोहा में आप राहुल गांधी के साथ एक बार स्टेज शेयर करेंगे। आप लोगों ने कहा कि एनडीए 150 तक सीमित रह जाएगी।
एनडीए कहां रहेगा ये संख्या मुझे नहीं पता, लेकिन इस बार जागरूक जनता पीडीए के साथ खड़े होकर के इनको सबक सिखाएगी, और इसलिए भी सिखाएगी क्योंकि अगर हम उत्तर प्रदेश का ये आंकड़ा देख लें, केवल 60 लाख बच्चों का इन्होंने भविष्य छीना है, उनकी नौकरी छीनी है, उनके आगे बढ़ने के सपनों को तोड़ा है।
नाराजगी राजपूतों को लेकर है, सम्मेलन आज भी वहां पर हुए हैं और बड़े,
इसीलिए मैं कह रहा हूं कि नौजवान परिवार उनके मिला दें तो उनसे 2,25,000 वोट कम हो रहा है। क्षत्रिय समाज और इस सरकार से नाराजगी वाले जो लोग हैं वो लाखों हैं, तो इनकी जीत कहां हो रही? इस बार इनका सफाया होने जा रहा है।
You have Akhilesh Yadav speaking exclusively to India Today, confident that the India bloc in UP will do extremely well. Samarth, if I can bring you in on this broadcast, you got us that exclusive conversation. Akhilesh Yadav believes that the anger of the Rajputs is also going to play out in battleground Uttar Pradesh.
Well, exactly, Akshita. There are two theories, actually. One, Rahul Gandhi is saying that NDA will be limited to 150, which earlier he was claiming to be 180. Second, Akhilesh Yadav clearly saying that Samajwadi Party and India Alliance obviously will emerge victorious in all the 8 seats in the Western UP, which will go to the contest tomorrow. And also, at one hand, Prime Minister Modi is, in a way, giving guarantee and clearly saying, Amit Shah, obviously, clearly saying that it will be the clean sweep for the Saffron Party. So, if you talk about the statements from both the parties, and also BSP chief Mayawati is also in the huddle. She's also claiming victory, and the way she has placed his candidates is clearly making things difficult for the Samajwadi Party and the BJP as well, because earlier she was called the B team, but she has been working on the concept to remove this particular tag of the B team, and we have clearly seen that. So this contest is very interesting. If you talk about Uttar Pradesh, we cannot stay limited to one party, because that the Saffron Party is having an edge or Samajwadi Party is having an edge. Yeah. BSP is also playing. Akash Aran is coming out and in a way holding rallies. All the 3 parties are in the huddle, so it's going to be worth seeing how these 8 seats of Western UP could play a role in tomorrow's contest.
Okay, Samarth getting us all of those updates. Samarth will be live with us from early in the morning, getting us all the big polar updates from those 8 seats. Let me also bring in now Preeti Chaudhary on this broadcast. Preeti, you've been traveling through these very seats that go to polls tomorrow. I want to talk largely first about Muzaffarnagar, Preeti. You were there just a few days ago. Now, over there, we're going to see what exactly plays out, whether you will have actually Sanjeev Balyan getting a hat-trick. I want to highlight one particular number here in Muzaffarnagar. Now, this is a seat where Sanjeev Balyan won in 2019. But you look at the margin right here. He won by a margin of 6,500 votes. He's aiming for a hat-trick. But is it going to be really smooth sailing for him? Preeti, what do you think? You look at these numbers from 2019. Sanjeev Balyan got a 49% vote share. The RLD also with a 49% vote share. Margin of just about 6,000 votes by which Balyan won. This time things are different in the sense that you have Jayant Chaudhary, who campaigned for Balyan in Muzaffarnagar.
Well, you know, it's very interesting because the figures that you pointed out there, Akshita, is one of the most controversial of elections of 2019. Ajit Singh was the one, Jayant Singh's father, who stood up against Sanjeev Balyan. And by the end of the counting, you'd have possibly then the RLD who went on and said that Sanjeev Balyan had rigged that election. It was an allegation, never quite proven. So one of the most controversial elections, the margin of victory this small primarily because you had a leader like Chaudhary Ajit Singh facing off, squaring off with Sanjeev Balyan, and now Sanjeev Balyan eyeing a hat-trick. You know, politics makes strange bedfellows. Suddenly you have a Jayant Chaudhary who himself had alleged that the BJP had rigged the election in favor of the party for not just his father's seat, Ajit Singh, who is no more now, his own seat from Bagpat as well. But you know, all of that aside, I just want to take you through with where Muzaffarnagar stands. It's an interesting concept in contest. In colloquial terms, it would be कि seat फंसी हुई और ये क्यों फंसी हुई है? Why is the seat stuck for Sanjeev Balyan? Primarily, what even Samarth was talking about, that Mayawati, who's been touted as the team B of the BJP, trying very hard not to cut or play into that role, in this particular seat has fielded a non-Muslim. And moreover, Dara Singh Prajapati, the BSP candidate, represents an OBC faction which was traditional voters of Sanjeev Balyan, which is the Bharatiya Janata Party. So he loses that vote, if at all, that vote is cut by the BSP. On the other hand, the rivalry between BJP leader Sangeet Som and Sanjeev Balyan, impacting the Thakur vote, which anyway it seems, there is disaffection. But will the Thakurs vote for the Samajwadi Party? I doubt it. So, big question mark there on what goes on that account. The Tyagi vote, interestingly, in midst of this contest between these three, and I'll tell you who the third from the Samajwadi Party is an independent of the Tyagi community. The Tyagi vote is about 1.5 lakh in Muzaffarnagar, and it could possibly be split now because of the independent. Standing from the Samajwadi Party, representing the India banner in all of this, Akshata, is Harinder Malik. He is a Jat leader, Sanjeev Balyan, a Jat leader. Both, Harinder Malik is an old Samajwadi Party leader, so they will split the Jat vote. Querying the pitch for Sanjeev Balyan. I just want to give you an example of take you back, these 8 seats in Uttar Pradesh which went to polls in 2019. Out of them, the BSP Samajwadi Party RLD were in an alliance in 2019. 3 at that time had gone to the BSP, 2 to the Samajwadi Party, and only 3 to the BJP. So this particular belt, even in 2019, where the BJP romped home with a massive victory, had not gone where at least the verdict was going, which was towards the BJP. This time, the RLD is not there, the BSP is not in alliance, the Gathbandhan Samajwadi Party fighting it alone. But in many of these seats, still, the best way to put it is at least 4 or 5 of these 8 seats are in contest, Akshata.
Very, very interesting. Preeti, of course, back in the newsroom to join us live from early tomorrow morning to share her perspective on Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan and many other seats that go to polls in the first phase that she's been to in Ground Zero. Thanks very much, Preeti. I'd like to thank Moshmi as well as Samarth for getting us all the insights from the ground. You heard their perspective. Let's now focus from Uttar Pradesh to Uttarakhand. Like I said, there are 2 states that are voting in its entirety tomorrow. One is Tamil Nadu, the other is Uttarakhand. So let's talk about Uttarakhand right now and get you what exactly this state looks like. Now, of the 5 seats, all 5 went to the BJP. And if you were to look at the VIP seats, there's one that everyone is talking about right now, the seat of Garhwal, where you have the BJP fielding Anil Baloni. He's up against Ganesh Godiala of the Congress, Dheer Singh of the BSP. As a Rajya Sabha MP, Anil Baloni is now making the transition to the Lok Sabha elections. And I want to now, as we focus on Uttarakhand, also get you an exclusive conversation that Rahul Kanwal had with Anil Baloni in Garhwal, from where he is contesting. Here's an excerpt of the conversation.
बहुत टाइम से आप वेट कर रहे थे कि एक इलेक्शन लड़ने का मौका मिले। अब तक बहुत सारे इलेक्शन बीते सालों में आपने लड़वाए हैं दूसरे को। लड़ने में और लड़वाने में क्या फर्क नजर आ रहा है?
नहीं, लड़ने में क्या है कि आपको मैदान में उतरना पड़ता है, लड़वाने में आप लोगों के साथ बैठ के गप करनी पड़ती है ना, पार्टी ऑफिस में बैठ के, स्टूडियोज में बैठ के करना पड़ता है। तो ये थोड़ा फर्क है, इसमें लेग वर्क ज्यादा होता है, इसमें आपको ज्यादा मेहनत करनी पड़ती है।
आपने पिछली दफा चुनाव लड़ा था 2002 में, और आपका जो कैंडिडेचर था वो एक तरीके से रिजेक्ट हो गया था। तो आप इसको एक तरीके से जिंक्स मानते हैं कि मतलब एक जिंक्स है जिसको इसलिए मंदिर आए हैं सुबह सुबह जिंक्स को पीछे करना है?
मैं हर चीज को मतलब हम लोगों ने मोदी जी के साथ विशेष तौर पे ये चीज सीखी है कि हर चीज को पूरे मन के साथ करना है। और जब मेरा नॉमिनेशन रिजेक्ट हो गया, आमतौर पर ऐसा बहुत कम उम्र का था, बहुत यंग था, तो आमतौर पर क्या होता है कि लोग सोचते हैं कि चलिए हो गया खत्म। मैं हाईकोर्ट गया, हाईकोर्ट में फिर मैं हारा, फिर मैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट गया, चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया की कोर्ट में गया, और चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया ने देखा कि अरे ये तो बहुत ही गलत है। उन्होंने कहा तुरंत इलेक्शन सेटिसाइड करो, अनिल बलूनी को फिर इलेक्शन।
तो नॉमिनेशन तो यूजुअली रिजेक्ट होता नहीं, क्या किया आपने ऐसा कि आपका नॉमिनेशन ही रिजेक्ट हो गया?
मेरी भाग्य में संघर्ष लिखा है, हाँ। और मेरे को कोई आराम से कुछ चीज नहीं होती है, तो इसके शायद ये प्रारब्ध में होगा।
नहीं, पर ऐसा भी तो नहीं कि जो स्थानीय यहाँ पे बीजेपी के उत्तराखंड के लीडर्स हैं उनको लगता ही है आ गया ऊपर से दिल्ली से हाईकमांड का लड़का, ये हमें बताएगा। तो ये बड़ा रहता है कि बलूनी दिल्ली की आंखें और कान है और यहाँ के लीडर्स आपसे बड़े सचेत रहते हैं।
नहीं, मेरे ख्याल से ऐसा नहीं, मुझे बहुत लोग प्यार करते हैं। मैं बहुत ज्यादा किसी को परेशान करने वाला आदमी नहीं, मुझे आमतौर पर सारे कार्यकर्ता और सारे नेता भी बहुत प्यार करते हैं।
जितने भी उत्तराखंड में तो इतने सारे सीएम आते रहते हैं जाते रहते हैं बीजेपी के, जितने भी आते हैं आपसे सब सचेत रहते हैं एकदम।
नहीं, मैं आपकी बात से
सुपर बिग बॉस एक तरीके से।
मैं आपकी बात से
ये तीनों बलूनी जी आप ही के चुनाव क्षेत्र में आते हैं?
नहीं, आप ऊपर की तरफ देख रहे हैं, इधर नीचे की तरफ भी देखना पड़ेगा। यहाँ से रामनगर भी लगभग 150 किलोमीटर है।
ये बहुत बड़ी और बहुत अनमैनेजेबल सी कंस्टिट्यूंसी नहीं हो जाएगी? इतनी बड़ी 14 असेंबली सेगमेंट्स हैं इसमें।
अनमैनेजेबल नहीं कह सकते, लेकिन भौगोलिक दृष्टि से बहुत फैलाव है इसका, और 14 विधानसभा के क्षेत्र इसमें है, और
ये भी पहाड़ी इलाके, 328 राजस्थान के नहीं, 328
हाँ,
उत्तराखंड के,
और 5 जिले हैं इसमें। टिहरी जिले की 2 विधानसभा पड़ती है, नैनीताल जिले की 1 विधानसभा पड़ती है, पौड़ी है, उसका रुद्रप्रयाग है, उसका चमोली।
क्योंकि मैं तो यही सोच रहा हूँ कि सांसद को कहीं पे अगर किसी की डेथ होती है या शादी होती है, सब जगह जाना पड़ता है, इतना दूर दूर जाना पड़ जाए, तो आपके तो अगर जीत गए तो धुएं ही छूटने वाले हैं।
नहीं, देखिए कि अपने लोगों के बीच में जाना अच्छा लगता है, और उस वक्त जब आप अपने लोगों के बीच में उनके दुख दर्द में, उनके खुशी में शामिल होते हैं, तो आपको शक्ति मिल जाती है।
So Anil Balooni in the electoral contest this time, it's a seat to definitely watch out for. But of the 5 seats in Uttarakhand, you look at how the BJP managed to sweep this particular state. They're counting on that happening once again. You look at the vote share breakdown as well, 62% vote share. And that's an overwhelming number for the BJP in Uttarakhand. 32% with the Congress, 7% with the others. This is of the 5 seats in Uttarakhand. I want to bring in Ankit Sharma on this broadcast as well, who's currently reporting and getting us all the updates from Uttarakhand. Ankit, the BJP counting on yet another clean sweep, 5 seats up for grabs. What does it look like there?
Well, Akshita, as the sun sets on the eve of first phase polling day and India gears up for the world's biggest democratic event, Uttarakhand is also setting up for the polling, and the people are going to converge at the polling stations to cast their votes. More than 8.3 million voters are expected to cast their votes tomorrow, and for all these 5 seats, BJP is confident that they will make a hat-trick. However, there is a trilateral competition in 2 seats, that is Tirhi and Haridwar, where Harish Rawat's son, Virender Rawat, is debuting as a Lok Sabha candidate from Congress, wherein former Chief Minister Trivinder Rawat is also a debutant when it comes to Lok Sabha polls. He is a candidate of BJP from Haridwar. Wherein going to Pauri, there is a close competition between Ganesh Godial and Anil Balooni. Now, Anil Balooni is a very big leader when it comes to central politics, but and he also hails from Pauri, and people believe that he is a down-to-earth person and he will bring some changes in Pauri, wherein Ganesh Godial has been a grassroots level worker and people have been supporting him because of lack of resources. He is still fighting and making it to the victory. But in Tirhi,
okay, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in Uttarakhand. My apologies for cutting you short, Ankit, but that's all the time we really have to focus on Uttarakhand. I just want to quickly run our viewers through all the other states also that will be voting in phase 1. So let's quickly run through those. The other big talking point is, of course, the state of Rajasthan. You've got largely North Rajasthan that will be voting in phase 1, 12 seats. And the BJP will be counting on having a repeat of this kind of a performance. There are some seats that you need to watch out for in Rajasthan. One of them is Bikaner, where you have Union Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal, who's looking for a 4th term to return in Bikaner. So we'll see whether that actually happens. The other seat that is extremely interesting is going to be Churu, where you have Devendra Jajaria, Paralympian, who's been put up by the BJP. Now, a miffed Rahul Kaswan, who was with the BJP, won on a BJP ticket, was snubbed by the BJP High Command. The ticket was given to Jajaria. So instead, he's moved over to the Congress and he's been given a ticket by the Congress. So that's going to be a very interesting battle. Besides that, you also have Nagaur, where you have Hanuman Beniwal, who is contesting from the RLP. Jyoti Mirda has been put up by the Congress. So this is going to be another very, very interesting battle. Let's run you through also what's going to happen in Maharashtra in phase 1. Remember, Maharashtra is one of those states that has multiple phases of polling. And tomorrow, there are 5 seats that essentially go to polls in Maharashtra. Now, of them, there's one that you need to particularly know about, which is that of Nagpur, because you have Union Minister Nitin Gadkari, who is fighting in this election. Phase 1, his seat of Nagpur goes to polls. Union Minister, of course, he'll be looking at returning to power from Nagpur. He's up against Vikas Thackeray of the Congress and the BSP, also Yogesh Lanjiwar. So that's Maharashtra as well. Let's quickly run you through Madhya Pradesh as well as West Bengal. All right, let's take you through West Bengal first, where you have, in fact, 3 seats that will be polling. Again, West Bengal, you will have multiple phases where polling will be taking place. So you have Cooch Behar, Jalpaiguri, as well as Alipurduar, which will be voting in this particular election. And the BJP has won all 3 of these seats previously. Will that happen this time around? Remains the big question. So these are some of the seats to watch out for in this particular election. There are, of course, in all 102 constituencies. And from 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, we'll be getting you all the live updates here on India Today with our reporters on ground. We'll have analysts with us to get you through all of the numbers and the seats to watch out for.